Welcome, everyone. Ronald Ingram here, your Rebel banker, broadcasting live from the high desert of Nevada, overlooking the Luxor Pyramid. Big news tonight. We have launched a new technology, and or at least the patent stage, and so. Today we filed a new patent, and I've been alluding to this for a while. I've been referring to something something that we've been calling the Super Robo banker, genius private banker, something like that. your private banker who's a super genius and can assist you in all of your financial needs. So a super agent for all of your banking requirements and finance, all the things that you might look for in a private banker, but of course not licensed, not technically a financial advisor. So this will be more of a educational and entertaining assistant. But the change here is that with everything that we've been talking about with neobanks and SPOC, we've got these four components. We've got SPOC, the secure privately owned credit key, which is the fuel, which is the keystone that drives this our whole business model and is a key to the agentic economy itself in the future. That's one component. Then we have the Ingram evaluation matrix, which is the explainable AI component to our business model. Then we have the machine-to-machine utility itself for transactional activity, for value transfer in token to token or wallet to wallet in SPOC, and also SPOC for the utility of purchasing the services, the Ingram evaluation matrix, and fourthly the NEO score, the scoring model that inverts the classical legacy credit bureau model and puts data ownership back in the hands of the individual. So those are the four components, and we've gone into detail sometimes about how that works, and it's been I think many people get it now, especially it's extremely timely. There have been more and more discussion everywhere about the agentic commerce and machine-to-machine commerce. Brian Armstrong saying how machine-to-machine commerce, the agentic economy is going to exceed the human economy, and that's kind of misleading the way that he says it. But I think when I explain how our new super intelligent private robo banker genius works, you'll explain. And you know what? I'm tired of saying the super robo genius banker. So I'm just gonna. So we can now that the patent has been filed, we can reveal a name. Very simple, one syllable. Brock. Easy to remember. Kind of reminds you of Grok, and it is and similar to Grok, it is an AI agent, and unlike Grok, it has a more specificity in its utility. It is focused on everything to do with business, accounting, finance, everything that you would need actually to start a zero-person enterprise. And I'll talk more about what that is. That's also a very, very hot topic. And imagine an enterprise where the staffing is made almost entirely of agents or robots, and that work 24/7, 365 days a year, always available, always on, never get sick, all of those types of things. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how this is nothing to fear, how we have everything to gain, and how this is going to completely transform in a good way. And this can go different ways, but the way that I envision it is, and being involved in Spock is part of the way to make sure that this happens, is that this could be an incredible boon to humanity. This could bring a new age of prosperity, and health and wealth. Exactly the slogan of Spock, right? Live long and prosper. This is the ticket. Spock is the ticket, and in the hands of Brock, which is powered by Spock as well. So this new tool kind of encompasses all the tools. And here's the thing. I think all we really care about with payments and many things is whether they work or not. We don't need to know exactly how they work. Now, all of you who've been listening and following along with Spock since the beginning have a pretty deep understanding compared to the average public, compared to the average person, about how the mechanics of this system work, the plumbing of the system works. Now, with Brock, we're going to be able to talk more about the faucet instead of the plumbing. And really, that's all people care about, right? They want to turn the spigot on. They want to open the faucet and see the water flow. And all the mechanics, all the plumbing, they don't really care about that. And just like a lot of people, you don't really care about your credit card or your debit card until it doesn't work, right? Especially if you think that you have money and it doesn't work, then it's very frustrating. You don't care about how your money gets to A to B when you do a wire transfer. You only care that it gets there quickly, seamlessly, with as little friction as possible. And that is not the current state of the world of finance and banking. Brock intends to change that. So and Brock is the product of a few different things. I've been working on making banking tools to make banking simpler and simpler and simpler and simpler for bankers. And at a certain point, it became so simple. Some of the platforms that I've been working on for many years, became so simple because the key parameters are fairly simple, that it became clear that really pretty well anybody could do many of the things that a banker does if they have the right information and a little bit of advice. And so I was making banking so simple for bankers. I was thinking, why limit it to bankers? I can, at the same time that I'm building this for bankers, I can be making it available to bankers. I could be making this available to this new tool available to humanity. Why not? It's simple enough and general enough that, like a good banker, a private banker that gets to know you and your level of sophistication or not, and your goals and desires, your strategic fit, what's important for you. So this is like an interface to the Ingram Evaluation Matrix, and the Ingram Evaluation Matrix, which makes AI explainable. So now Brock can explain things back to you in terms of and this is the way it was going to work and is working for bankers. And I've got bankers queued up, but I'm going to make this available to everybody, not just bankers. And what that'll and because it has the ability to do the really complicated things, but also the really simple things, because that's how the model works, right? It's designed to be scalable so that it applies to the smallest decision and the biggest decision. I'm talking about the Ingram Evaluation Matrix now, which if you're not familiar with, I'm not going to go through it in great detail today because I've gone through it many times before, but it is a model that goes That's light years beyond the old SWOT analysis that has been around since the 1960s that businesses would use to make strategic decisions. And there's many other decision-making models and trees, and which are custom to the situation, but lack the clarity and scalability of the Ingram evaluation matrix, which breaks down any decision into 4 categories: strategic fit, which is who you are; feasibility, which is what you have available to achieve what you want to achieve. So what you want to, strategic fit is who you are, what you want, your goals, vision, core values, etc. Feasibility is what you're capable of or can get access to. And so if you're an organization, who do you have that on your team right now? Who can you add to your team to fill in for resources that are necessary for something that you might want to do? Financial impact, which is the size and return on investment for a decision that you might make that's related to finance. And finally, risk. What are all the different dimensions of risk for any decision that you make, and in high stakes decisions, mergers, acquisitions, those become very important. In day-to-day decisions, those are less important. But in all decisions, that same quadrivalent logic, stretching the meaning of quadrivalent logic, but it's 4. These 4 quadrants you can use to evaluate and make any decision. So that's what Brock will do for you in all of your decisions, primarily related to finance. So Banker Brock, or Brock the Banker. Brock, your personal private banker. And so that's this simple idea. And it's good that we talked about all the plumbing before, because it sounds like it may sound impossible. It may sound quite extraordinary to imagine having a sophisticated banker that a bank would pay hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to, perhaps available to you personally, and knowing, because even the private banker that if they have a portfolio of 100, if you imagine the best private banker you could imagine today, who's a human, they would have a portfolio of customers, and they would, their attention, they would only get to know those customers to a certain degree, and they'd generally focus their effort on getting to know the top 5 or 6 or 10 of their 100 customers, if they had 100 customers. And so this really levels the playing field. Originally, Brock was about leveling the playing field so that small banks can compete. Now this is leveling up, so leveling the playing field so that anybody can compete. Anybody can be a business owner. Now I want to think, and now this is where people are have this get a little bit. Let's talk economics a little bit for a second, and a little bit more macro for a second. So people are concerned about displacement, all the jobs that are being lost right now people being replaced by AI, and this is part of that. And we have pups in the background, so we have. So I'll edit this out, edit that part out. Yeah, so we're talking about how to the impact of job displacement due to artificial intelligence. And here's the good news, is that Brock the Banker is an enabler of what I call the ZPE, the zero person enterprise. So let me talk about what that means exactly, a specific example of what that looks like. So imagine today you have, a really easy use cases are artists and actors, and I come from an arts background. Where my family does. My family we're all musicians, and my first business was an art gallery, and you would meet great talents, and sometimes yeah they just lacked business acumen, and that would be frustrating for the business side. So I was the business side of the art gallery, and I appreciate talent, appreciate these artists, but they would be difficult to deal with sometimes, and not that they were trying to be difficult. Sometimes maybe they were, so I've got some pretty interesting stories from those days. However, especially not just small artists, large artists as well. They would benefit so much to have a business advisor. However, some of these artists lack sophistication to the level that their business manager, it's an old trope that the my attorney Bernie scenario where the advisor, the accountant, the lawyer, the trusted advisor, and maybe they start out well-intentioned, but they just have so much latitude and freedom. They start taking more and more liberties and start taking advantage of the artist that they're supposed to be working for. And so it's really easy to see that it's an ancient pattern, old story. And imagine a scenario here where you have every artist, and there are artists and actors and talent. There's talent out there, athletes as well that might be more interested that would pursue their art more enthusiastically if they had more time and they had more money. You see where I'm going here, right? So if talent had easy access to banking expertise, and not just the accounting part of it, but strategic advice on contracts and all of these things, that not to replace the being mindful of the laws and regulations regarding licensing, and only a lawyer can do what a lawyer does, and doctors and have their and financial advisors and accountants all have their certifications, and they're the ones that are deemed by society to have the right to advise. And this doesn't replace that, but it keeps those people accountable as well. And so what you would do if an artist, for example, or an aspiring business person that has an idea, has a product, has a new treat that they want, that their family tells them this is so great, you should sell it. They don't know the first thing about business, or maybe they just don't like business, or they think of that, or they don't want to deal with the math of it. They just love it and they want to do it because they love it. Those are the people that are going to thrive, I believe, in the singularity economy, with access to AI and with access to Brock, which has been patented and has patented tools available to Brock in terms of Spock, the way that, and so Brock, your robo banker, can talk to other robo bankers and to find solutions for its client, and it can, if you, whatever access you give it, it can exchange, it can carry on monetary transactions, do or value exchange for goods and services, and handle your day-to-day transactions. And that's how we get to the machine economy being larger than the human economy, so to speak. It's really not that, one big aspect of it is that the transactions are being, rather than being facilitated by humans directly. They're being facilitated machine to machine on behalf of humans, right? So that's how you displace a lot of these transactions. So anyway, back to the ZPE model. Here's the thing. If one person out of 100, 1% of the population has an interest in starting a business, with a ZPE, they have the potential of amplifying their capabilities. So now I'm talking about a business person. I'm talking about someone that wants to be an entrepreneur and wants to build a more than a lifestyle business, or even a lifestyle business, meaning that they have autonomy and don't have a boss, so to speak. And that person would be able to use the ZP, use Brock to multiply their efforts about 100-fold. So think back to when automobiles, when the inventor of the engines that powered automobiles, he had a difficult time getting miners to get rid of their ponies, and he had all kinds of arguments. He's more humane, use my engine, use petro powered, oil powered, gas powered engines and machines to move the material out of the mines, and it's more humane for your ponies, and it's vastly more efficient. He was the one that came up with one of these inventors came up with the idea of explaining the power of this engine in terms of horses. So now he created the cognitive bridge to sort out the cognitive dissonance that people just couldn't get around, how they needed ponies to move the material, but machines were far more efficient. So he came up with the idea of explaining the power of the machine in terms of horses. So we are moving into an era where we're going to need new KPIs. The government is going to need new KPIs, new metrics, key performance indicators, KPIs, new metrics to determine contribution and economic output. So the term that I've coined is FTEP, so full-time equivalent person. So a normal person, what would a normal person accomplish? How much work could a single normal person accomplish, an average single person accomplish? Just keeping it simple. Just like there's big, strong horses and there are weaker horses, same thing with people, right? But for an average, it's usually not, some people, just for simplicity, we say an average person the average output of an individual person, that is 1 FTEP. And so now in the ZPE, you have many displaced people that start ZPEs. Each one of those people represent 100 FTEPs. And if that's the case, I've done the math, and I'll publish a math wiki, but most people aren't interested in the formulas, and I published the odd formula and on the economics of this new model from time to time, and there's not a ton of interest. A formula has turned people off in many cases, but it works out to, and this is conservative, a person can multiply their output by 100 times, and it's different for different, but that would be a good measure. So if 1 in 100 people were interested in ZPEs and creating ZPEs, that would be a threefold, 300% increase in GDP. So that's why Musk talks about, instead of universal basic income, UBI, he talks about UHI, universal high income. And I know it's mind-boggling, and what do you do? What do people do? And it's really fairly simple to foresee one outcome at least. And this is the outcome that I think is the most likely as a futurist. That people will turn inwards. So conflict and competition will become more about self-improvement, be more, so we'll switch more from the wealth. And this is why my jam is health and wealth, and that's why Spock is perfect. It's logic. Logic dictates that that health and wealth are two sides of the same coin. You need them both, and you need some wealth in order to be able at present to get ahead in the health area. But when resources are more available and people have access to almost unlimited resources in the area of improving their health, then it's going to become more about intelligence and choosing wisely. There are drugs, for example, that may make you thinner, but their long-term impact is not likely healthy. And take it and here's where I throw in the disclaimer: I'm not a doctor, and always talk to your doctor about. Well, I'm not a doctor, but you do what you do, and do your own research. And my views are mine and mine alone, and I tend to be a contrarian. So that's where. So I think that what we have is, with this excess surplus, is we have people wanting to pursue their passions more. And you've heard maybe the expression, the long tail. The long tail gets very, very long, and people, it becomes some monetary value if they want, and the monetary value becomes less important as productivity as a society increases due to ZPEs and all the other breakthroughs that we're having with the singularity, all the money that's being generated, and all the wealth that's being generated. People have more time and money to do the things that they love, and also there's satisfaction. And if you're an artist or a creator, that it's a lot more fun if people see the value in your work, such to the extent of wanting to purchase it. So one friend of mine who's a photographer said, well, what everybody takes pictures. What makes one person a photographer and another one not? And this is kind of like a banker definition. And he wasn't a banker, but he was like, well, if people pay you, that means you're a photographer. So it is validating, right? When your creations are deemed worthy of exchange for monetary value or other forms of exchange, right? So that's sort of the so I think that Spock is going to lead us, into a Star Trekian utopia potentially, where there is great abundance, and there's still going to be conflict, and probably more lethal conflict as well. And people are, maybe as they have time to cogitate more, they might become more dissatisfied. So it may magnify negative traits that someone already has that they may act out on and do horrible things. We see a rise in violence, but we're not really at that utopian stage yet. Although if you think in terms of where we are as a civilization compared to 100, 200, 300 years ago, and if we sort of let go of the notion of romantic, if we don't romanticize the good old days and realize think of the disease and the hard hours and the cold and the hard work and the short lifespans and the infant mortality rates and all of the difficulties of life prior to modern conveniences that are available to us due to innovation and finance and growth in GDP financed by innovations in finance like banks and venture capital. So this Brock, this new Brock invention, and part of the suite is kind of the simplest layer to understand, but fueled by all of the complexity underneath. It's like the faucet that allows the water to flow. We've got all the plumbing beneath, the Neo score, which is the pipe with all the data. And the Ingram evaluation matrix, which makes AI explainable. All of these things, and the machine-to-machine inscriptions, machine-to-machine commerce, enabling machine-to-machine commerce on the MBC20 protocol and the X402 protocol. All of that is plumbing that a lot of people don't really care about, but Brock is something that has a persona to it, a personality to it, and it is your ZPE banker, private banker, business advisor, all of those things. And how does it do all those things? Through using the tools burning Spock. So utilization of the model would require Spock tokens, and Spock tokens are single use. Once they've been used to access Brock, they're burned, and the scarcity increases and the value goes up. So that's the big news. Brock is the name of the super robo genius private banker, and that has been now all the requirements nailed down, documented, and development underway, and patent filed. So now that's the magic milestone that I was waiting for before I could share more of the details about this piece of the puzzle that kind of completes this. So the other events coming up, we've got the conference is coming along well. I have that's the conference that we have, the Neobank conference, first Neobank conference that I'm co-chairing with Dr. Kevin Streff, the Dean of the Bankers Institute, which represents about 1,800 financial institutions, large and small, and tending to be the more innovative group that are interested in learning. So the Bankers Institute is primarily focused on education. It's the largest organization for educating bankers. So that's the focus of this conference. And we have the head of the Senate Banking Committee, Tim Scott, is speaking, and Colin Carr, a senior staffer working on the Senate Banking Committee, and a whole host of CEOs and with expertise in quantum and in artificial intelligence, and as well as myself, I'll be speaking, and that's a virtual event. So May 5th to 7th, open worldwide to everyone now. Normally it's just bankers, but we opened this one up for everyone. And so that's a big event that has been also keeping us very, very, very busy, and has the potential to have a big impact, I think, because a key area of focus is explainable AI. And of course, we have the best patented model, which is driven by Spock. So very good for Spock and very good for this project. Also have other events I'm not going to talk about until after they've happened, and so that you can see some of them might miss, some of them might hit really big. So rather than share a lot of hype about what's coming and then not knowing what's going to hit and what's going to miss. So far, everything is hitting though. This has been that's rare. I've been in innovation and product development before I was a serial entrepreneur, and it's rare that the demand exceeds your expectations. It's only happened to me a few times because I have always very, very lofty expectations, and my expectations are being exceeded here. Maybe not what meme coin folks would expect with the 1 day pop and literally the bubble that pops in 1 day. We are day 29, day 30 now. So this is day 29. So tomorrow will be the 30th day that, and so we're way past, the 99% that usually fail in the meme coin space. I want to talk about the really big news I got really excited about last night. I've been talking about March 17th. The SEC and the CFTC put out an interpretation memo that explained the different categories of crypto, and made it clear that at least meme coins and utility coins, and we are as a hybrid hit kind of both of those, are not securities. So that was a big green light for serial entrepreneurs, and I think we are seeing. I'd like to get the data. I haven't seen data yet, but I'm sure that there is already the influx is starting, and maybe it takes a minute for people to recalibrate, but they will be. I have seen some, and just anecdotally, but I don't have the numbers yet. But I think we're going to see a big influx, and whereas the fund side has been a little bit dampened, the enthusiasm has been dampened a little bit. The utility side is going to completely eclipse that. Just like we talk about the VisiCalc moment with PCs all the time, right? When PCs were used for fun and games and risque entertainment, and along comes the VisiCalc and the first spreadsheets, and boom, businesses all around the world, every business has to have a computer. That's where we're at with crypto. But even in those early days, I mean, those computers didn't do that much beyond a spreadsheet. And crypto is still early days. It still has some hard edges, and I'm leaning into that. And one way that I'm doing that is by spending time with people that have never used crypto or have had minimal exposure to crypto, and just to get an understanding of what it's going to take to see the chasm there's a chasm usually, things don't grow, just new technology isn't adopted just incrementally and then hitting an exponential curve. It isn't a smooth process. There's something called a gap usually, where there's the space between early adopters and people who and the early majority. So the people that are just really curious and want to try every new thing. Those are the early adopters, and the early majority are much more reluctant. So I'm finding out where the the patches are, and they're really not. They're quite solvable. They're very solvable, and Brock is also, that's one of the other reasons that I decided to make Brock available widely to everyone, not just bankers, because Brock can be the tool that you download Brock, and then maybe you don't need to really understand how to use. The average person doesn't need to understand how to use wallets and how to, which wallets they can trust, which ones they can't, and they don't really love it. They don't love crypto the way many that are probably listening to this do, but they love a high ROI, and they love easy access to their funds. They love They would love to have a ZPE. They would love to have a private banker that's figuring out, that's 24/7, 365 days a year out there generating funds if that's what they want. There may be less urgency around that, as I said, as ZPEs catch on and more people are able to amplify their financial resources. There may be less of a motivation for people, but not for a while. For right now, I think this is going to, if people everyone, I think at this point wants access to more resources. Just about 99 there's hard to imagine many people, even people that have tremendous amounts of resources, they want to have more resources so that they can get more information or more power or influence or whatever. Right? People want to accumulate wealth for all different kinds of reasons, good or ill. And so who isn't going to want a ZPE to help them do that? Or to be more accurately, Brock specifically designed for them to set up a ZPE, look at trading, look at basic budgeting things, complicated budgeting things, look at acquisitions, look at new financial structures. I've seen really interesting things about using Bitcoin as collateral for real world assets, and all kinds of innovation that the human mind is having difficulty keeping up with. And so what you need is what we all need is and what I need too. I'm amplifying myself through these swarms, and that's what this. I have a whole hierarchy of orchestrators and AI that interact with each other and according to a hierarchy. And actually, that is like most things. Like Spock is an acronym. Brock is an acronym as well. It stands for Banker, Revolutionary, Operations, Kiritsu. Kiritsu. Some people say Kiritsu. I think the correct pronunciation is Kiritsu. It's a Japanese term, and it means like cooperative competition. So it's where here's the thing: it's based on trust, right? And that's one of the big things that's missing, that our stack solves for. The neobank stack, which is Spock, the Neo score, the new alternative to credit scoring that is portable and owned by the consumer, and the Ingram evaluation matrix. All of these things are tools to help navigate who you can trust in terms of people. Here's a really big announcement. One of the things that few people have been talking about is agents aren't perfect, are they? Right? Agents are a reflection of their owner, of their programmer. So I think some of us might naively think, well, machines are great. I can trust machines because they don't have an ego. Now that's true, but the owner or the programmer may have malign intent, right? Or they may have benign intent, or something in between. And they might have benign intent but be misguided, and those are often the worst, right? And how can you determine is through the Neo score, which puts character back into credit scoring. It's scoring. Credit scoring is only one of the 5 factors in making an underwriting decision or a business decision about who you're dealing with. This is what the most effective bankers in the world know and have been practicing for a very long time. The 5 C's of credit: character, credit, capacity, capital, and collateral in that order. And so Neoscore, the reason it's so revolutionary, been cited by, and this is an issued patent, okay? This is a solid issued patent that's been cited over 160 times now. It's cited by Google, by Experian, by Equifax, by FICO, by all the big credit bureaus, many fintech companies, many of the largest fintech players, payment technology players, all are aware of this patent and have cited and built on this patent. The patent that I just filed takes this to the next level. And I really wanted to share this before, but I couldn't. It's just, I like to be as open as possible, but at the same time, you want to receive the benefit of your innovation, right? No one's, it's fair value exchange is important. It's a principle in the universe, right? There always has to be fair value exchange. You get what you give, I think what the song says. So, so remember that when, and like and comment and follow on all those things that I'm always supposed to ask you to do, right? Yeah. So here's the big breakthrough is that we need that same score for agents, right? And this is, it's already just a few comments out there, but Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase, he's one pretty credible thinker in the space, and others. So like recently they created this agentic marketplace. We have agentic commerce. So now these machines can transact with each other. But how do you know whether that machine is competent, malign, or benign? How do you know that the machine isn't operated and controlled by a nation state that is antagonistic, that is in opposition to American values, internationally or domestically, right? How do you know? So I've extended my original patent to include the Neoscore applied to machines. I should have brought this up way earlier, but this is why if you're this far in, or if you're watching later, watching the replay later, remember sometimes the best stuff comes after a slow start, just like Spock, right? Well, actually, we had a pretty quick start, but it was the usual. Looked like it was going to, looked like it was going to be a pump and dump, but that wasn't going to happen. So it didn't. I tested it out before. I knew that would happen, and it didn't really phase me that much because this is a very long game that we're at, and so we've been laying layer after layer after layer of a stronger and stronger foundation. So, do you get how important this is? So we've created the MBC20 protocol, right, for Spock, so that, and all the other agents, probably every agent that is active online is aware of Spock at this point. And we have a lot of work to do still to increase the level of engagement. But first level was just awareness. So they're aware that Spock is out there now. So now every agent that wants to transact is going to look for some way to validate the other agent. And the Neoscore is designed for that, using data, using metadata, using social media data, Moltbook, all the things that were used in Neoscore for humans are almost directly applicable to machines. So this is an incredibly a meaningful, high impact aspect to this technology that yeah, because that's the next thing. So you're gonna, otherwise what would happen is it would be like the early days of Bitcoin. Yeah, it would be gaining traction, more and more traction, values going up, and then boom, scandal. Rebuild, boom, scandal. Same pattern. Would every time it would get going, but the spaces between the scandals would become smaller, and the scope of the scandal compared to the scope of the utility would also become more favorable over time. So Bitcoin now is established as the gold standard. Interesting that that memo, that one pager that was put out last night, that makes the March 17th notice on the SEC CFTC direction on legality. Literally, legality is the word that is used in the what is it? Crypto assets and the federal securities laws. That's the title on that one-page memo that I sent out last night. And I think it came out on Sunday. How weird is that, right? That doesn't happen very often from a government office, but they're that's the vibe though. The signal is that they're very proactive and they're wanting to see innovation. They are clearly encouraging innovation in this space. So if you're a well-intentioned and capable, there's never been an opportunity like this to get into this space. And you may want to be incorporating Spock into, and like I said, we have all this all these patents and issued and patent pending and novel intellectual property. I'm not sitting around waiting to sue somebody. This is I'm open to licensing and partnerships and collaborations. So this is really, really big. And so that's why, and do you see how many views I got on that post? 221,000 views on that post in less than 24 hours. So I think a lot of you know that this crypto assets and the federal securities law, that one pager is very significant. And what does it say? It gets really specific, but very and very easy to understand. And this was great because I'm putting together a little thing for some newbies and normies, and I just want to be very careful always, right, about the language, that you don't describe crypto incorrectly or make inappropriate forward-looking statements, and it's definitely not a security, and you want to make sure that you don't say things that lead people to believe that it's a security. So you always want to be, always very careful with my words. And now we've got this memo that came out. It says what crypto assets are not securities. And very first box, digital commodity. A digital commodity is necessary to participate in or use certain aspects of an associated functional crypto system. Digital commodities deliver their value from the programmatic operation of that system, as well as supply and demand dynamics like scarcity. So no confusion, crystal clarity. We can just simply say that Spock is a digital commodity, right? It's still it's a meme. It has meme aspects. It has used to propagate the idea. That is effective for getting information, getting awareness up and out there, and keeping people engaged. The other aspect of which is huge is utility, and now that just took a whole nother big jump forward with the introduction of Brock. And literally was just done last night. So this is like super, and this morning even. So this is super, super fresh. This is like a new launch that nobody hears. That the few people that are here on X will you're very fortunate to be here. now, if you're still listening, you're very fortunate to be getting this information so hot. I mean, this memo that came out from the Office of the Advocate for Small Business Capital Formation. That's interesting too, isn't it? So that under the jurisdiction of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the Office of the Advocate for Small Business Capital Formation. That's on the letterhead. And right under that, the title, Crypto Assets and Federal Securities Laws. This could not be more clear. In my mind, this is more important than the Clarity Act because it's clear, immediate, actionable direction now, right? The Clarity Act, don't get me wrong, is very, is huge for and is in top of mind for everyone. But this is actual practical direction that's very clear and very useful right now. So that is those are a couple really big things. So we've launched this new. So we haven't launched it. We patented it, but I've launched it in terms of can share the name, the concept, and development is underway. It's working right now in a MVP status. I need to experiment with it and make sure I'm fully satisfied before I release it into the wild. But it could obviate meaning it could make a lot of the things that we place so much importance on today unnecessary. So Brock could handle your basic incorporation papers, LLC, setting up your books, your accounting. It might not even need the kind of complex. For some ZPEs, you might be able to start with simpler accounting, and like a lot of the complexity that's built into so many of these interfaces, you have to spend like CRM software, enterprise resource management software, and you have to take classes to learn about an interface to interact with the intelligence behind it. Brock can bypass all of that. And so it's like, I mentioned at first that it's a bit like Grok in terms of in intelligence, and it uses a swarm of agents and a hierarchy of agents organized in a keiretsu instead of there's other organization structures. This is also part of the patent. This organizational structure that I have is more effective in high stakes environments like healthcare and banking and battle, where explainable decisions need to be explainable, and they can't be. The decentralization is still part of it. You still have the swarm of autonomous agents that are working, but there's also a hierarchy based that is organic, though. It's based on principles that are shared in my book and part of what I call Ingram quantum objectivism, which is modeled after how natural systems work, emergent systems, complexity theory, and all that kind of stuff. Plumbing again. All that people need to know is that Brock is the faucet, right? You ask Brock, and Brock will make the water flow. That will be the message. And I, as product people, we get excited about the plumbing, but it is really gratifying when you turn the faucet and see the water flow. And that's where we're at with where I'm at with Brock. And then when I release it into the wild, it'll be widely available, and I think it'll be widely sought after. Think about it. Yeah, very exciting. Just very exciting. And so it's bringing attention to some pretty serious partners as well. And and interestingly, in the digital commodity section of that memo that went out, It includes as digital commodity. It gives it examples, which is very, very helpful. Everything from Bitcoin and Ether to Dogecoin and Shiba Inu. So, so some meme coins kind of graduated into becoming commoditized, right? So that is very material. This is really exciting times. Things are coming together in a very exciting way. And that's all I have tonight. So live long and prosper, my friends. And we will see you again, hopefully day after tomorrow, 6 p.m. Live long and prosper.